In the sun-baked lands of modern Iraq, where the scorching sun beats down on endless horizons, the secrets of ancient Mesopotamia lay hidden for thousands of years, buried beneath layers of sand and time, waiting to be rediscovered. Between the life-giving waters of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the world's first cities grew, flourished, and then mysteriously disappeared, their stories fading into the sands of time, leaving behind mysterious hills known as tells that dot the landscape like silent sentinels. In the early 1900s, driven by a thirst for knowledge and a desire to uncover the past, archaeologists began to carefully excavate these sites, hoping to find clues about the people who once lived there. They eventually found what was left of the Sumerians, the first people to develop a system of writing, use the wheel for transportation and pottery, and build complex city-states with impressive temples and organized societies. Among the many old things found, from pottery shards to intricate jewelry, one artifact stood out with particular significance: the Weld Blundell prism, a remarkable find that would change our understanding of Mesopotamian history. It was a four-sided clay block, carefully inscribed with ancient cuneiform writing, a testament to the Sumerians' advanced record-keeping abilities. This item, now famously called the Sumerian King List, meticulously kept track of rulers, their respective cities, and the often unbelievable lengths of time they reigned. But as experts painstakingly began to read and decipher it, they soon realized that this was not just any old historical record, it was something far more extraordinary. The list started with kings who ruled for what seemed like an eternity, tens of thousands of years, blurring the lines between myth and reality. The text also spoke of a catastrophic, world-altering great flood that swept across the land, effectively resetting civilization. It was a fascinating and perplexing mix of what appeared to be real historical accounts and fantastical old stories, a long and winding tale of gods, kings, and floods, all carefully written on clay. The King List offered a tantalizing peek into the very beginnings of civilization, but it also brought up a profound and enduring puzzle for historians and archaeologists alike. Where exactly did verifiable history end, and the realm of ancient, embellished stories begin? This strange and captivating mix of fact and legend is precisely what makes the Sumerian King List one of the most intriguing and widely talked about documents ever unearthed from the cradle of civilization, offering a glimpse into a world both familiar and utterly alien. The Sumerian King List is a remarkable and ancient document, essentially a timeline meticulously chronicling the rulers of Sumer. It's not just a list of names, it's a window into how the Sumerians perceived their own history and the very nature of kingship. It conveys the profound belief that kingship was not a right earned, but a special gift bestowed upon humanity from the heavens, a divine mandate to govern and lead. The list meticulously names each king who held power, carefully recording how long each monarch reigned, offering a glimpse into their perceived impact and influence, and explicitly stating which city served as the kingdom's capital during their rule, highlighting the shifting centers of power. The list also indicates that when a new dynasty or family of rulers ascended to power, the seat of kingship, the capital city, invariably moved to a new urban center, reflecting the changing political landscape. This presentation creates the impression of a unified and continuous Sumerian empire, a single entity spanning generations. But the reality was far more complex. Sumer was actually composed of numerous independent city-states, often engaged in conflict and vying for dominance. The King List, therefore, presents a simplified and idealized version of this often chaotic history, smoothing over the complexities of intercity rivalries, presenting a seemingly unbroken and linear succession of rulers, thereby suggesting that the institution of kingship itself remained constant and unbroken, merely shifting its geographical center. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect of the Sumerian King List is the incredibly long reigns attributed to the earliest kings. Some are credited with ruling for tens of thousands of years, figures that defy realistic human lifespans. These numbers are not intended to be taken as literal accounts of human longevity. Rather, they represent a narrative that intertwines the realms of gods and mortals, blurring the lines between myth and historical record. The Sumerian King List is far more than a simple historical document or a mere record of names and dates. It is a powerful statement about the nature of power itself, the role of the gods in human affairs, and the way in which the Sumerians constructed and understood their own past, their cultural identity, and their place in the cosmos. It compels us to ask critical questions. Why did the Sumerians choose to write their history in this particular way? What deeper meaning and cultural significance did these seemingly impossible numbers hold for the Sumerian people? The Sumerian King List serves as a doorway, an entry point into a world where ancient myths and the realities of daily life are inextricably intertwined, where the line between the sacred and the secular is blurred. It transcends a mere chronicle of who ruled over whom. It delves into profound questions about the very essence of kingship, the nature of time, and the cyclical patterns of civilization. The Sumerian King List holds a special place in historical understanding because it represents a unique and fascinating fusion of ancient storytelling traditions, deeply held religious beliefs, and what the Sumerians perceived as historical fact. The most captivating and arguably the most debated part of the Sumerian King List is its detailed, almost unbelievable story of the kings who reigned before the great civilization-altering flood. It speaks of a time long before our own, a period shrouded in mystery and legend. It all grandly starts. After the kingship came down from heaven, the kingship was established in Eridu. Eridu, considered the first city in Mesopotamian history, was the original home to Alulim, the first king, who supposedly ruled for an almost unfathomable 29,000 years. A reign so long it challenges our modern understanding of time itself. These early kings, with their extended lifespans, are more akin to mythical figures than historical people. Their rule stretching back into a perfect, almost dreamlike time long ago, a golden age of gods and heroes. The list meticulously names 8 such kings, each with their own incredible reign across 5 famous and influential cities: Eridu, Badtibera, Larak, Sippar, and Shuruppak. Their combined rule, spanning hundreds of thousands of years, simply defies logical explanation and makes no sense from a modern perspective, suggesting a time when the world was fundamentally different, perhaps closer to the realm of the gods. These numbers, these vast stretches of time, might be symbolic representations, meaning special favor or divine blessing from the gods, or perhaps they represent a perfect divinely ordained order, rather than actual literal years. Each city in this antediluvian world was more than just a settlement. It was a holy place, meticulously mapping Sumer's land, based on its perceived relationship and alignment to the heavens, reflecting a deep connection between the earthly and the celestial. The section of the King List that details the time before the flood is best understood not as a factual account, but as a foundational story about how things began, a creation myth, not a work of history in the way we understand it today. This era of gods and kings ends abruptly. Then the flood swept over the land, washing away everything that came before. The flood serves as a monumental reset, a cataclysmic event that wipes the slate clean, definitively ending the age of myths and legends and ushering in a completely new era for humanity. Everything that comes after this point is fundamentally different, irrevocably changed, forever shaped by the collective memory of this immense destruction and loss. The flood effectively separates the world of the gods, the realm of the divine, from the everyday world inhabited by people, marking a clear distinction between the two. Let's talk about the first 2 kings, Alulim and Alalngar of Eridu. Alulim is said to have ruled for 28,800 years, Alalngar for 36,000, numbers that are hard to believe. These numbers don't show up in records about money or managing things. They only exist in this old story timeline. Some experts think these numbers are symbolic, maybe connected to Sumerian math or stars. More likely, they show times of special favor from gods and perfect order. Eridu, their city, was special to Enki, the god of wisdom and water, the place where civilization began. By putting the first kings here, the Sumerians claimed their way of life was ordered by gods. Alulim and Alalngar represent a lost perfect time, a time when gods and people got along. Their rule set the stage for the more human history that came after. The King List draws a clear line with the Great Flood. After the water goes down, kingship comes down from heaven again, this time to Kish. Kish becoming important means a change in power, and the kings after the flood are a mix of old stories and possibly real history. Their rule, though still long, is much shorter than those before the flood. The first king, Joshua, rules for 1,200 years, his followers for hundreds. It's as if the flood made humans less grand, bringing kings closer to how long normal people live. Some kings after the flood, like Etana and Enmebaragesi, show up in other Sumerian writings. And Enmebaragesi is even proven by digging up old sites. This is where old stories start to mix with real history. As the list goes on, rules get shorter and names match those in other records. Figures like Gilgamesh appear, bridging the gap between old stories and real life. The king list becomes a bridge from a mythical past to a more real historical world. For historians, the Sumerian king list is both a treasure and a challenge. It wasn't written as true history, but as a way to make rulers seem important by connecting them to a special godly tradition. The list's straight line of rulers is misleading. Many ruling families were actually around at the same time, not one after another. The unbelievably long rules are clearly symbolic, not real. Early parts can't be used for dating. They show more about what Sumerians believed than what actually happened. Still, the list has historical value. Names like Enmebaragesi are proven by digging up old sites. From that point, the list becomes a more believable, though still not perfect, guide. Historians must compare it with other sources to put together the past. The king list is not a simple history book, but a very important piece of the puzzle. It helps show the complex story of ancient Mesopotamia. The Sumerian King List has shaped how we study ancient Mesopotamia. It gave a framework for archaeologists, guiding them to cities like Ur, Uruk, Kish, and Eridu. The list's way of dividing history into mythical and historical times changed how we see Sumerian society. It helped place famous figures like Gilgamesh in a partly historical context. Finding real kings like Enmebaragesi made the list seem more trustworthy. The list also reminds us that we don't know everything and need to think carefully. It challenges experts to combine written texts and physical evidence. The King List has made the field smarter, pushing for a deeper understanding of the past. The Sumerian King List was a powerful political tool, not just a record for the future. Made during the Isin dynasty, it helped new rulers gain power by linking themselves to a special, unbroken line of kings. By showing kingship as one single thing that could be passed on, the list made rivals seem less important and helped bring people together. Leaving out certain ruling families like Lagash was a purposeful political move. Including mythical kings made the idea of kingship seem more grand. The list is old propaganda, a guide for power, not just a list of kings. It shows that changing history for political gain is as old as civilization itself. The King List is a great example of using stories to shape power. Today, the Sumerian King List continues to be fascinating and puzzling. It's a window into a world where old stories and history mix perfectly. The list's unclear nature is its legacy. It's a political document, a religious text, and a historical record all at once. Its value is in what it shows about the Sumerian mind and their effort to understand the past. The King List structure is similar to later traditions, like the old leaders and flood in the Bible. It's part of a bigger human tradition of stories about how things began. Studying the list is about trying to understand, putting together pieces of another world. It's a beautiful, frustrating, and very human document. Our first try at a big, unified history. The King List is a story of gods, floods, and kings, written on clay, a whisper from the very beginning of time, and that's why it will always hold a special place in the story of our planet.